What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Average Bob with a upcoming preview for the Thanksgiving matchup between the Giants and the Cowboys down in Jerry World in Dallas. Before we dive into this week's game, I want to take a look back at the Week 3 matchup where the Cowboys won 23-16. And in that game, Dak was out and Cooper Rush picked up the slack. And what did Cooper Rush win, like 4 games for the Cowboys while he started? He played it okay in that game, and it really came down to two big factors there. The Cowboys' rushing attack between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. I think Zeke made his first return back last week versus the Vikings, and Tony Pollard obviously had a great game there. But both teams are a lot different in this matchup coming up now, as the Cowboys just had an epic win last weekend, 40-30 over the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. And the Giants did suffer their worst loss of the season against the Lions, where they didn't do anything well on offense, defense, special teams, and especially coaching. And they did lose a couple key players, such as Adoree Jackson, the starting cornerback, as he was injured on a punt return. And then also Wan'Dale Robinson, who had 10 receptions for 100 yards, and he tore his ACL. A brutal loss all the way around last weekend versus the Lions. But touching on tomorrow's matchup, the biggest thing that this game is going to come down to, I believe, is the Cowboys' front seven. Obviously, right now, you have Micah Parsons. I'm not going to say Mika like I did in the earlier video, you Cowboys fans that were crying like a little bunch of bitches. So Micah Parsons is your minus 310 defensive player of the year, odds-on favorite right now at sportsbooks for a good reason, right? He's having a great season so far, and he's game-changing. They line him up anywhere. I think you're going to see him all over the place in this one, even though they probably don't even need to have him do that. But again, it's just showing what kind of versatile player he is at this point in his career, where they're going to put him at middle linebacker and he's going to blitz, right? And this is a huge matchup for the Giants' offensive line that last week lost their starting right tackle. You also had Nick Gates playing some center as well, and I think he might be starting this week. And then the big zero last week was Shane Lemieux's return at guard, where Pro Football Focus put out his running blocking as a 0.0, and he looked horrible and got burned throughout that game, whether it was from a D tackle or a linebacker blitzing. He just didn't know where he was going. He couldn't move his feet, didn't see anything until it was way too late, and Danny Dimes was running for his life. So the Giants have a lot to fix up front after that Lions game. And I think another big factor of this game, obviously, is the Cowboys' rushing attack, which has been stellar lately. And the Giants obviously haven't really proven that they could stop the run in the last few weeks. And if you look at a guy like Tony Pollard, he's probably going to be the game changer in this game. So I would look to probably hammer some of his prop bets on the over for rushing. But, in his last 3 weeks, he went 131 yards against the Bears with 3 touchdowns, 115 versus Green Bay with a touchdown, and then last week he had 109 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns to match 80 yards rushing. So, obviously there's been a backfield change over the last year or so, as people have seen Tony Pollard take on the more explosive speed back role, as Zeke has been nicked up a little bit. But, that's what you need to be successful in the NFL, sort of a two-headed monster where one guy picks up the slack when someone else falls. So Giants defense are going to have their hands full trying to figure out this enigma. One thing that I want to hear from you Cowboys fans on is from, your passing attack. Dak is playing well again, as he did miss some time, and CeeDee Lamb is starting to go off a little bit more, but a guy like Michael Gallup, I feel like, hasn't gotten it going, which leads me to my next point, and a big thing that will be a topic of discussion probably during this game and immediately after this game, is that Odell Beckham Jr. is looking to make his turn to the NFL, and it's down to 2 teams, the Cowboys and the Giants, and they're facing each other tomorrow. So I think whoever wins that game will have a big chance of landing Odell. Obviously, I feel like both teams need a little bit of wide receiver help. Obviously, the Giants, because we have no wide receivers at this point. Kenny Golladay still stinks, even though he had a catch or 2 last week. Darius Slayton is returning a little bit to how he used to be okay. But again, these aren't really stellar wide receivers that are going to help you win too many games. And then on the Cowboys side of things, really you have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. I guess he's just still injured. Let me know what you guys think of why he's not picking up where he was supposed to be, that sort of wide receiver 1 role. But again, if you look at Odell, he'd be a pretty good complement on the opposite side of, or around CeeDee Lamb, just creating more space and just giving defenses another thing to think about outside of your dominant rushing attack. The only path that I believe the Giants have to win is if they could somehow be creative with offensive coordinator Mike Kafka and dialing up some plays where they can get Saquon in space where he could bust a long play, just try and get the running attack back on track after last week where he was stifled for like 20-ish yards. And I just hope last week versus the Lions wasn't a confidence killer, because obviously the Lions defense isn't very good. It's at the bottom of the league, especially in rushing, and now you're playing a better Cowboys defense coming off their biggest game of the year, holding an 8-1 team to only 3 points. And the Vikings do have a good running back in Dalvin Cook, so I'm going to be very interested to see how this shakes out. Another big point and a path for the Giants to potentially win this game is, and this is a long shot, right? Because the Giants haven't proven that they could do this pretty much all season long, but hey, you never know, right? If Daniel Jones can start slinging the ball and someone else can start making plays outside of Slayton, who they might be able to hit deep or takes chances on. I mean, I think the biggest chance is if the Cowboys do stack the box and force us to pass, then someone's got to figure out a way to get creative and open downfield, and we have to take those shots. And the shots have to be quick, because after the Week 3 matchup when Demarcus Lawrence absolutely killed Danny Dimes, and then you have Micah Parsons on the other side. So it's really going to come down to, and whoever lined up on the right tackle is going to be playing a backup. And hopefully, I don't know if it's Matt Pert, but he was pretty shitty last week too. So got to have to take some shots and hope, you could break a long play or two and make it an ugly game, because that's really where our chances lie here. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And happy Thanksgiving, y'all, and I'll see you soon.